Okay, hello and welcome to your Visual Basic Chapter 10 lecture video. And it is going to be somewhat short because there's a lot of carryover from other chapters in that chapter, arrays and such. But I want to look at sequential file access. I do this a little bit differently than the book, so that's why I'm hitting on this, because I want to show you a couple of other things that I do and a lot of folks do. So here's my form. It's very simple. I just have a write button, a read button, and a append button, and an exit button. And all the output that's going to come from this shows up in a message box, so there's no reason to put anything complicated on here. So let's go ahead and go to the code view. And I've got my regions set up so I can collapse and expand the code, which is what you should probably want to do. Now I have a constant up here called my path, just so I have to type it all the time. If you don't include a path when you're opening or creating or appending to files, it will put it in the same place as your exe, which in our case would be in the debug directory. All right. So I recommend you do it this way just to get used to it. You don't have to do it, but I mean, it's just easier to get to, for one thing. Mine is right here, and it's my files. All right, now, I don't have one in there, and I deleted it out so you could see how it creates it, and we'll be opening it up and so forth. However, if you don't do it like I was talking about, and you come in here, let's see if I've got my examples. I can't remember where I put the video at. How about that? There it is. I actually want to go to my examples. And this is, my microphone's falling down. Sequential files, okay. And this is your directory structure. All right, there's your binary directory, and there's your debug directory. Now, it will create it and put it in here because that's where your exe is, right, by default. So if you're wanting to do it this way, that's where you're going to have to go look. So you'll be under your project directory, or whatever you're doing. Now, again, this is just a chapter lecture, so I just want to show you that you can path it somewhere else if you want. Okay, let's go back to here and let's take a look. So there's my path. Back to what I was talking about. It's just a string variable called my path. That's a constant, and that's where I'm going to be putting it. So let me back up. And let's go here. There it is, my files. Okay, I'm going to leave this open so I don't have to hunt for it. Alrighty. All right, now I have, like I said, I've got click events for these three buttons, well, 4 if you include the exit button. All right, so what I'm doing here is the first thing I'm doing is declaring an object of type io.streamWriter. And I'm initializing it using the new operator. And this is what's called the default constructor of this method. And I'm passing it in a string, which is my path, which is what it expects. Now, anytime you do anything that's going to require opening files, databases, internet connections, mathematics, whatever, that might throw an error, you want to use the try catch. And we've looked at this before, okay? But so we're going to try to write to this file. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create it. If it does exist, it's just going to create it and overwrite what's in there using the write method. So I've got my file.writeLine. That writes one line to the text file. The name of the text file is write.me.text. And basically I'm putting in a palindrome, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, Madam, I am Adam. And actually palindromes don't look at casing or periods and commas and that sort of thing. Okay. And then I'm going to show this message box, file successfully created. So let's go ahead and look at this. But there's one other thing that I'm doing that you probably have not seen. I think I spoke about it a couple of times. There's the try. If everything's successful, it does this, and then it runs finally. Okay, finally is something you haven't seen. Regardless of whether there's an error or not, finally runs. So whatever you put in here will execute regardless of whether it's successful or not. And in this case, once I open this file up here, I need to close it whether it's successful or not, because it's going to cause what we call a memory leak over time when the user's running stuff. May not throw a specific error, but it's sucking up memory every time you run this, and so you need to close it. I've seen some really serious problems in applications due to memory leaks, and this is one way to fix it. All right, you can always reopen it again, but you need to close it. So finally runs regardless of whether try is successful or it throws an error. It's going to run at the very end, and that's where I'm going to close my file object. Now my file is of type StreamWriter, and these are methods, right? If I come up here and write my file dot, the dot operator, IntelliSense pops up and it shows me all the methods and properties associated with that thing. Okay, there's a lot of stuff to it, but for what we're doing, this is sufficient. So dot write line is a method, as is close. Okay. All right. So as I showed you before, I do not have a file in here. All right. That's my path. So I'm going to go ahead and run this application and click the write button. Okay. So write. File successfully created. That's my message box. Well, that tells us right there that we didn't get into an error situation. All right. So because it would have jettisoned here and went there. So let me open this back up. There's my file now. It exists. It's just created. And there are my 3 lines of text that I put in there. Palindromes are the same backwards and forwards, right? A man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a man, a plan, a canal, Panama from right to left, from left to right. Madam, I'm Adam is the same. Madam, I'm Adam. Okay, those are palindromes. Okay. So that takes care of the write. Now I have a read button. Or again, I'm creating a my file object of type StreamReader. This is StreamWriter. I want StreamReader. And I'm doing the path thing here. So it's going to open that file up if it exists. And it's going to read each line from it and concatenate that into my string output, which is just an empty string object. Now what's happening here, it goes into the try after it creates this object. And it's creating a local variable called string output. That's what we're going to output in the end. And it's got a loop here. So while myfile.endofstream, end of stream is a method, or property, excuse me, of the myfile object, which is a child of the IO stream reader object. As long as that's false, there's more lines of text in there to read. When that becomes true, this is going to end because we've already hit the end of file marker. All right. The reason this is important, besides the fact that it enables you to loop without doing a lot of calculations into how many lines of text there are and where you are in the loop and all that, is that it's very likely in a lot of instances you're going to open a file that doesn't have anything in it. It's an empty file. So without this, you'd try to read a line and that would throw an error, okay, and it would throw you back into here. But in this case, it's just going to read the 3 lines of text. It's going to output them. And here I'm using control chars.newline. The plus equals is output string equals output string plus myfile.readline. And at the end of each one of these, I'm sticking a new line in there. So I'll have 3 separate lines in my message box. Okay, same thing here for catch and finally. So let's go ahead and do this. And let's read from that file. It pulled those 3 lines of text out, concatenated them into the string output string variable, and using the control chars object, which is available to you without any special work, is putting a new line on there so I get 3 lines of text. That's all that's going on there. Okay. Now let's look at the append. Now this is somewhat more complicated, but not a lot. It's not a lot more complicated. Now I did something here I don't normally do, but in this case it's not going to matter because it's going to get initialized one way or the other. The only thing that might happen here is if it throws an error here and does this, it's going to try to close a file that may not be open, but we're not really worried about it. That's what this warning is. I could go ahead and open it here and create it, but that's not what I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you that it's going to look to see if that file exists at that path. If it's false, then it's going to open it and create text in the create text mode, basically, as a new file and put the same stuff back in there that was in there before. If it does exist, that means this is already there. It's going to skip that, come down here and just append text to it. All right. And here it's doing my file equals io.file append text, and that's the method you use to append text that tells it what path we're at. And I'm putting in I'm out of ideas as my string literal. Okay, so let me go in here and delete this, and it will create that file, hopefully. I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, see what happens. Okay, I deleted the file, so it does not exist. Append. So I'm opening it, and I'm creating my file as io.streamwriter up here. So go into the try block. If io.file.exists for that path equals false, which it should, because it doesn't exist, it should go inside this if, create it, and write these 3 lines out. Press F5. Try it again. F5. There it goes. So I'm going to hit the append button. And I'm going to step through this, F10. It's creating the create text. It's creating the file through create text at that path. It's writing these 3 lines and it's closing the file. Now it's going to open it again because you can't have it open for a different method, so you have to close it before you can open it as append text. So that's why I've got my file closed in there. It'll throw an error. I'm out of ideas, and then it closes the file again. That sort of closes it from the second open. Okay, so let's exit. Let's go look at the file. And there, I'm out of ideas. So if I run it again, it should skip this and go straight down to here. Okay, and then I'd have 2 lines that say I'm out of ideas. So let's run it again. Append. It does exist, so it's not going to go inside of there. See? It's going to open it for appending, and it's going to write I'm out of ideas and do that thing there. And let's close it. And now let's go back in here and open it up. Now I've got 2 of those in there, okay, which makes sense. So if I run it again and bang on that append button a bunch of times, it's going to, every time I hit it, it's going to put another line there that I'm out of ideas. So I'm going to bang on it. Exit. Go open up the file, and you should see, there you go. There it is. There it is. All right. That's basically it. You just have certain objects that you create, and they're called streams. Reader and stream writer, because they call input output a stream, depending on where it's going. It's streaming into or out of somewhere. And that's basically it. So I hope that helps you a little bit. And that's really all there is to. It doesn't get a whole lot more complicated for sequential file access. A lot of books don't even look at it, but it's good to know because you might want to write some INI files or batch files or something. Every once in a while, you need that old stuff to get you over the hump. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I'll see you next time.